The best revenge on people who hurt you. Stoic philosophy. The nature of harm. What does it mean to be hurt? We begin with a question most never truly ask. What is it to be hurt? Is it the insult, the betrayal, the rejection, or is it the meaning we give to these events? To the Stoics, harm does not lie in the act, but in our response to it. Epictetus says it plainly. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. This is not just a clever aphorism. It's a radical redefinition of pain. When someone slanders your name, they do not injure your character. They reveal their own. When someone leaves you without explanation, they do not reduce your worth. They show their inability to confront truth. Yet we suffer. Why? Because we consent to the wound. We internalize it. We say to ourselves, I was wronged. I was diminished. And in that moment, we are not harmed by them. We are harmed by ourselves. A modern example. You're in a workplace. A colleague undermines you in a meeting. Subtly, perhaps. A passive-aggressive remark. A deliberate omission of your contribution. You feel a tightness in your chest, a mix of anger and humiliation. But ask, what has actually happened? Your work is still yours. Your competence, unchanged. What's altered is the narrative in your head, the imagined injury to your standing, your pride. This is the battleground, not the boardroom, not the conversation. The real fight is internal. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, flattery, treachery, and ruled an empire through it. He wrote in his Meditations, not for others but for himself, if you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it, and it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now. That is where the Stoic path diverges from the modern one. Today, we are taught to own our pain, to identify with it, but the Stoics teach, examine it, question it, dissect it until its illusion is exposed. What you'll find is this: the insult only stings because you believe it might be true. The betrayal only cuts because you believed someone owed you loyalty. The rejection only wounds because your self-worth was placed in another's hands. This isn't to say suffering is imaginary. No, it is deeply felt. But the Stoics urge us to distinguish the event from the story. The event is neutral. The story is optional. And it is the story that breaks us. So what is harm, then? It is the surrender of reason. It is the loss of sovereignty over our own mind. This is why Epictetus reminds us, no one can harm you unless you allow them to. The best revenge begins here, not with action, not with retaliation, but with restraint, with clarity, with reclaiming your inner citadel from the grasp of others. Before you strike back, ask, have I first mastered myself? Because if not, it is not they who are winning. It is you who are losing. To yourself. The power of indifference. Why ignoring is stronger than retaliating. In an age where attention is currency, indifference is an act of quiet rebellion. We are conditioned to respond, to clap back, to defend, to expose. Every insult demands a screenshot, every slight a reply. But what if true strength lies not in reacting, but in not needing to? The Stoics called this state apatheia. Not apathy, not numbness, but rational detachment, the ability to remain unmoved by what does not concern virtue. It is not a deadening of the soul, but its purification, a fierce discipline of the mind to concern itself only with what is within its power. This means, not everything deserves your energy. Not every attack requires a response. Not every battle is worthy of your presence. Modern life is a theater of reaction. Social media thrives on it. You're expected to be outraged, offended, emotional, always available for conflict. The Stoic, by contrast, is not passive, but selective. He does not retreat. He ascends. He chooses where to place his mind. He asks, does this touch my reason, my character, my duty? If not, he lets it pass like wind through an open window. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by court politics, betrayals, and false allies, wrote, "You always have the option of having no opinion. There is never a need to turn things upside down." This is not cowardice. It is power, the power to be undisturbed in the presence of chaos. Imagine someone wrongs you. lies about you, tries to ruin your reputation. The world will expect you to retaliate, to prove them wrong. But the Stoic knows. Character needs no defense. Truth, over time, exposes all things. Your energy is better spent living with such clarity that their lies fade against the weight of your consistency. A modern parallel. A coworker disrespects you publicly. You burn to respond, to set the record straight. But if your work, your presence, and your discipline already speak louder than their words, silence can be devastating. Not as punishment, but as statement. You will not be moved by noise. This is not easy. The ego demands retaliation. It whispers, show them, but reacting gives them ground. It puts you on their level. You become a participant in their game. Indifference, when grounded in integrity, denies them that power. Epictetus reminds us, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. In other words, if you are stirred to anger, it is not because they have power over you, but because you have surrendered it. Control over emotion is not repression, it is mastery. It is not the absence of feeling, but the refusal to be ruled by it. Indifference, then, is not weakness. It is restraint sharpened into strength. It is the quiet sword you never have to draw, because your presence alone makes it clear. You are not moved. And in a world where everyone is shouting, the one who does not flinch speaks loudest, living well as the ultimate response. Seneca, with the clarity of a man who had seen the rot beneath the polished masks of power, once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." It is tempting to dismiss this as moral idealism, but in truth it is strategic genius. When someone wrongs you, the instinct is to match them. They lie. You expose. They insult, you retaliate. They betray. You sever. But the moment you mirror the actions of your enemy, you become a reflection of them. You step down from the high ground and enter the mud. Whatever victory you claim down there comes at the cost of your own self-command. Stoicism does not ask you to be passive. It demands that you be intentional. And to the Stoic, there is no greater victory than to live well, to cultivate such integrity, strength, and inner peace that your enemies are left punching smoke. To live well is not to move on in the shallow, performative way the world suggests, pretending you are healed while seething underneath. No, living well is harder. It means confronting the pain, learning from it, and letting it shape you into someone no longer reachable by the same weapons. It means becoming unshakable, not through denial, but through depth. Ask yourself, what would truly disturb the person who tried to harm you? That you yell back? That you seek revenge? Or that you flourish in spite of them? That your mind is calm, your days are full, your choices clean? That the arrows they fired were absorbed and recycled into armor? A person who insults you expects a reaction. A person who betrays you expects to see you broken. When you respond with calm, with focus, with a life steeped in purpose, you are not ignoring them. You are showing them, unmistakably, that they do not matter. This is not pride. This is not coldness. It is discipline. In the modern world, the need to prove yourself is constant. Social media inflames this. You are watched. You are measured. Your image is your currency. But the Stoics remind us, reputation is externals. It is not who you are. Your true value lies in what cannot be taken from you, your reason, your character, your choices. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and still wrote to himself daily about humility, patience, and restraint. Why? Because he knew the real battle was internal. He knew the praise of men and the attacks of enemies were both fleeting and hollow. He understood the deeper truth. You win by living rightly, not loudly. This is the revenge that does not corrode the soul, the kind that does not pull you into a cycle of bitterness. It is the long game, where your dignity outlasts their noise and your peace renders their malice irrelevant. To live well is not just to survive what was done to you. It is to rise so far above it that you are no longer the same person who was hurt. And that is a revenge they can neither predict nor undo. Let us look again, deeper, from another angle. Because this idea, living well as the ultimate response, is not just a quote to admire. It is a way to live. And it is hard. Seneca's words, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy," sound simple, but they go against every instinct forged in the fire of pride and pain. When someone hurts you, you want them to feel it. You want to balance the scale. You think, they should know what they did. You imagine scenes where you triumph, where they regret everything, where you rise while they fall. That's the fantasy. But what does reality offer? Here's what. You go after them. You obsess. You explain yourself to people who already made up their minds. You waste hours in silent arguments, scrolling through messages, imagining the perfect comeback. And all the while, they continue their life, unbothered, or worse, entertained. Now pause. Who's really in control here? This is where Stoicism enters. Not with cold indifference, but with liberating clarity. The Stoics teach that our energy is sacred, that the only thing worthy of it is virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, self-control, not revenge fantasies, not point scoring, virtue. To live well is not to deny that you were hurt. It is to ask, what do I do with this pain now? Not what they deserve, not what the world expects, but what you choose as a rational, free person. That is the Stoic way. Consider this. If you build a life of discipline, purpose, and peace, do you really think the insults matter? Do the rumors dent your work ethic? Do the betrayals ruin your kindness? Can someone else's bitterness stain your integrity? Only if you let it. Let's say someone tried to sabotage your reputation. You feel exposed, disrespected. But instead of retaliating, you focus on your work. You show up early. You treat people well. You grow. Slowly they are left behind, not because you pushed them down, but because you kept rising. This is not theoretical. It is brutal. Practiced patience. It means biting your tongue when it's easier to snap. It means letting people think what they want while you hold steady. It means doing good, not for applause, but because you don't want to be like them. That's what Seneca meant. Virtue, in this context, is not some abstract ideal. It is power. It is the kind of power that can't be taken, because it comes from within. If you live with purpose, if your choices are sound, if you are building something that reflects your principles, you don't need revenge. You become the proof. And here's the real twist. They know it. Your silence, your peace, your focus, it speaks. It shows them what they couldn't shake, what they failed to ruin. It holds a mirror to their weakness without you ever lifting a hand. The best revenge isn't to win, it's to not need to. The illusion of justice through retaliation. Revenge promises justice. That's the lie. It whispers that if you make them feel what you felt, the scales will balance, that your suffering will be vindicated, that wrong will be made right. But the Stoics saw through this, clearly, soberly, and they warned us, revenge does not heal. It chains you to the very pain you seek to escape. Ask yourself, what is it that drives the desire for revenge? Is it justice or ego? Is it virtue or pride masked as righteousness? The moment you retaliate to make them feel what you felt, you accept their behavior as the standard. You stoop to the same methods, speak the same language, and in doing so, you corrupt your own principles. This is the paradox. You seek justice, but enact injustice. You want to restore dignity, but end up degrading yourself. Seneca wrote, "He who does wrong, wrongs himself. But if you answer that wrong with another, what then? You multiply it. You deepen the rot." There's a modern version of this. Someone betrays you, spreads lies, breaks trust, damages your name. You think they deserve to pay, so you do what they did. Or worse, you expose them, retaliate, pull others in, stir the pot. And for a moment, maybe, you feel power. But what comes after? More bitterness, more anxiety, more obsession. You've become entangled with them. Your peace is no longer your own. It's bound to their downfall. And if that downfall never comes, if they walk away unscathed, then what? You're left with the wreckage you created trying to hurt them. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Why? Because justice is not something the world owes you. It is something you owe yourself. In how you live, how you think, how you rise. The Stoics held justice not as a system of retribution, but as a virtue of the soul. It is not about punishing the wrongdoer. It is about remaining upright yourself. In a corrupt world, the rarest and most powerful thing is to live justly. Not just outwardly, but inwardly. And so, retaliation is not justice. It is a trade. You trade your clarity for momentary satisfaction. You become judge, jury, and executioner. And in doing so, risk becoming the very thing you hate. Epictetus advised, "Keep before your eyes those who assumed authority arrogantly and those who met with great success or failure, and ask, where are they now?" The point is not nihilism. It is perspective. The fire of revenge fades. The sting of betrayal passes. But your choices remain. Your character endures. In the end, the only justice worth seeking is the kind that makes you better, not bitter. Not all debts must be collected. Not all wrongs must be punished. Some must simply be left behind. Because what you are building is far more important than what they tried to destroy. Transforming pain into growth. The discipline of perception. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, burdened by war, betrayal, and loss, wrote these words not for the world, but for himself. Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. At first glance, it sounds absurd. You lose a friend. You're humiliated publicly. You're abandoned. How can you choose not to be harmed? But Marcus wasn't denying pain. He was revealing where the true damage occurs. Not in the event, but in our interpretation of it. What happens is rarely within our control. What it means is always ours to decide. The Stoics called this the discipline of perception, the first and most essential pillar of their philosophy. It's the ability to look at any experience, insult, injury, failure, and ask, what is this really? What can I learn from it? How can I use it? Not why me, but what now? Take betrayal, for example. Someone you trusted deeply turns on you. Most people will spiral into anger, revenge, self-pity. But the Stoic pauses, observes, and thinks. This pain is real, but it's also a teacher. It's exposing something in me. My expectations, my attachments, my assumptions about people in the world. Let me study it. That shift, from victim to observer, is the beginning of transformation. In modern life, pain is pathologized. We want it gone. We numb it with distractions, self-medicate with noise, drown it in validation. But the Stoics tell us, pain is not the enemy. The enemy is the belief that it has no use. Marcus Aurelius also wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the wound can become the path. If you let it, you lose a job. And in that space, you find clarity. You get rejected. And in that silence, you build resilience. You are insulted, and instead of reacting, you train your mind to remain steady. In every hardship, there is an invitation to sharpen the soul. Epictetus was born a slave, crippled, powerless by all external measures. But he wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That wasn't optimism. It was power. He couldn't control his chains, but he mastered his response. And that made him free in a way his masters never were. So here is the hard truth. Life will hurt you. People will disappoint you. Injustice will find you. But none of that has the final word. Only your perception does. And this is not denial. It is alchemy. The ability to turn insult into strength, to turn rejection into direction, to turn loss into wisdom. This is not poetic. It is practical. The person who can do this walks through life armored, not in bitterness, but in purpose. Because once you stop asking the world to be kind and start asking yourself to be strong, everything changes. And that, the Stoics would say, is real growth. Forgiveness as rational self-interest. Forgiveness is a word too often coded in sentimentality, wrapped in cliches and moral posturing. But the Stoics had no use for hollow gestures. Their forgiveness wasn't soft, it was sharp. Not emotional, but logical. Not for them, But for you, when someone harms you, insults, deceives, abandons, the pain is real. The damage may be lasting. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, is not about excusing the harm or pretending it didn't matter. It is the sober decision to stop allowing that harm to continue ruling your inner world. You forgive, not because they deserve peace, but because you do. Resentment is heavy. It leaks into your thoughts, your sleep, your decisions. It distorts the way you see others, and worse, the way you see yourself. The Stoic sees this clearly and asks, why would I drink poison to punish another? Epictetus was direct. When someone does you wrong, immediately consider what idea of good or evil led them to do it. He didn't say you must excuse the act, but understand it. People act out of ignorance, fear, confusion, ego. Their choices are theirs. Your response is yours. And forgiveness in this context is a strategic withdrawal. You are not surrendering. You are severing the chain. You are saying, I refuse to carry this further. I will not grant this insult a permanent room in my mind. In modern terms, think of a toxic relationship that's ended. They hurt you, maybe deeply. But months later, you're still replaying the conversations, still composing messages you'll never send, still explaining to others what happened. You've escaped the situation, but the situation hasn't escaped you. The Stoic would say, that is a form of slavery. You are giving your energy to someone who no longer even needs to be present to control you. Forgiveness is how you take that control back. This is not naive. You can forgive without forgetting. You can release the bitterness and enforce boundaries. Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. It means peace with yourself. Marcus Aurelius, ruler of an empire full of betrayal and political treachery, reminded himself, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly, but I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. To him, forgiveness was not indulgence, it was clarity. These are human beings, flawed like me, and I will not destroy my peace over their failings, because in the end, holding on to the harm only deepens the injury. It gives the event a longer life than it deserves. Forgiveness, rightly understood, is not a kindness you do for them. It is a responsibility you owe to yourself.